after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Moving the Goalposts. I'm here with Liam, the usual co-host, and Ben Cruz, the third wheel. So we have a lot to get to today, obviously, but of course, first I want to say you can follow us you can follow the network on Twitter at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart. You can follow Liam at Liam MTGP. I don't know what your at is. Oh yeah, at Ben Cruz 1. You can follow Ben. Is that all your social media?
Yeah. For my Twitter at Ben Cruz 144, all lowercase, specific in terms of my name. Also, you can find me on Threads, Facebook. I'll be on over, but Twitter I'm very active for. So in terms of on here and empty the bench
Is
stuff,
anybody
really
actually on Threads?
I mean, I have it.
I keep seeing
it's just
advertisements for it. I've never met anybody who actually is on it.
Yeah, I had it today. And funny enough, specifically, Tom Brady was doing a Q&A type of thing, and I just put in specifically just if he was just actually going to answer specifically. And funny enough, that in terms of all these people, he responded to one of my questions in terms of the account. Obviously, it probably wasn't him, but if it was, I mean, it had the blue check mark on it. And I said, "You're excited for the Hall of Fame induction, which is going to be in June?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm excited." But I also asked him about the roast that's going to be going on for the Netflix, and he said, "Not so much." So.
All right.
But
first we have to get through. So you can follow all of us on Twitter. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network on social media: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can follow the show at MTGP ETB on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. You can listen to you can find all of our podcasts at etbpodcast.com, and you can listen to this show, Moving the Goalposts, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, we are presented by Playback. This episode is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. All right, so we can get into the show now. Of course, we have to talk about, because Liam and I are both Knicks fans. We have to talk about basically being a Knicks fan right now is basically being bipolar. We had our manic phase and our what's the other one called? The opposite of manic. Our manic and depressive stages.
Yeah.
Manic?
What?
I said
he's
panic.
right.
Satanic. We have a manic stage and a panic stage. We've had quite a few of those this series. I think we all have a lot of thoughts on this. Most recently, though, and by the way, by the time this show comes out tomorrow, the Knicks Sixers Game 6 would have already happened. So it certainly is possible that everything we say is not going to matter by the time the show comes out. But the Knicks absolutely blew it versus the Sixers. As much as that game felt over, as much as the game before that felt no, as much as Game 3 felt no, what was it? Game 2 felt over, and then the Knicks ended up winning. This was the opposite. This never should have happened. It was a total disaster. There's so much to get to and there was so much blame to go around, but it's just very obvious that the Knicks just had no business losing this game whatsoever. And I mean, obviously, Maxey was amazing in those final 26 seconds. He basically Reggie Millered us. It's our generation's version of Reggie Miller. I was just absolutely disgusted by this. I don't know, Liam. I know you're also a Knicks fan. I don't know what your thoughts were.
So, yeah, I mean, you could look at it two ways. One of it is you could look at it as if you took 30 seconds off of Game 2 and 30 seconds off of Game 5, then it would still be 3-2, right? So the Knicks kind of did get back what they gave to the Sixers. I was watching the game at work. I committed a cardinal sin, which is Deuce McBride hit the shot to make it 96-90, and I said it's over, which I should not have done. But, yeah, they blew it. A bunch of things happened. First of all, I thought that was a chintzy foul call on Mitchell Robinson on the 4-point play. But the fact of the matter is, why was he even contesting the shot? If Maxey makes the three, it's a 3-point game with less than the shot, or there was about the shot clock left at that point. And why are you even contesting the shot? If he makes the shot, you need 1 free throw. If you foul him, you need 2. Or he could have even why was he contesting the shot? 2, why did Brunson pass the ball to Josh Hart when the Philly was going to foul? Why was the ball in Hart's hand? He's not a good free throw shooter. The free throw he missed was horrible. He missed it short. And I don't know why he put the ball into Hart's hand. Brunson should have never let go of the ball. That was a bad decision. Hart has to make the free throw, though, frankly. He's got to make both free throws. And then third, why did they not foul? I never understand why teams don't foul up 3 points.
Right.
This is the NBA. Foul. And the possession they had was horrible, too, by the way, to end the possession. Brunson, that was another problem they had in overtime. Brunson thought he could do every single thing himself. He can't. It was horrible. There were so many mistakes. This is, by the way, a preview. Like you said, this is coming out on Friday. So this is a preview of Game 7. The Knicks have a less than 0% chance to win tonight. I don't think they're going to win the series. They had a chance to put them away. They didn't do it. It's unthinkable to me, and I think that I don't think they have a chance. Now, you could look at it from the other way and say the Knicks should have lost Game 2. You could look at it and say Tyrese Maxey played out of his mind. Joel Embiid had a triple-double, and they needed a miracle to send it to overtime even. So you could look at it that way from the Knicks' perspective. This is a bad loss. I mean, you have to step on someone's throat, and they didn't do it. And they, I think that it's been an even series because each game has been pretty close. The Knicks, I thought, were fortunate the Knicks were fortunate, frankly, to get out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia had a chance to tie the game when it was 6 points with a minute left there in Game 4. And Philadelphia made a mistake. Kyle Lowry didn't tell Tyrese Maxey that he was going to purposely miss a free throw. If they had told him, they could have tied that game. And we've seen the Knicks have been bad late in games.
Yeah,
they have a problem late in games, and this was just it's backbreaking in my opinion. I don't see a way back for them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I don't know why he was passing to Josh Hart when he knew they were going to foul. You might as well just do it yourself, knowing that you might as well just keep the ball, knowing that they're going to foul you. So I don't understand what he was thinking. I assume he was thinking he was going to be able to make a layup or something, but I mean, he was fouled. and he knew they were going to foul. Apparently, Deuce McBride couldn't hear Tom Thibodeau yelling at him to foul. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's
why. But Tom Thibodeau also should have told them, honestly, they shouldn't have, when the Sixers got the ball, they should have not even played defense at all. They should have they should have literally just stood there.
Yeah.
Who cares if they score?
Right. No. Exactly. I mean, there was no reason why. And people are like, look, I'm going to give Tyrese Maxey credit, but I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit. He deserves a lot of credit, but the Sixers do not come back and win that game if not for the Knicks fuck ups, if not for the unimaginable screw ups on the Knicks part. It was just a total disgrace. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know, Ben. Did you get a chance to watch this?
I actually set off the air. I was seeing some of it in the fourth quarter, and I was watching the Bruins game because obviously it's my hockey team. They're playing the same night, Game 5. So I was asking my brother. I said, they're up by 6 points with 30 seconds left. I said, well, it looks like that's pretty much going to be a wrap unless something miraculous happens. Well, about 5 minutes later, my brother goes up to me and said, "This game's in overtime." I say, "What?" And I said, "All right." So I took a look, and in terms of the Maxey, the 4-point play, I agree with Liam. I mean, I don't know exactly why are you fouling specifically when you're still on by 6 points specifically. If he hits the shot, he hits the shot. You still can have the chance to get some free throws and essentially ice the game. But, the Knicks essentially pretty much kind of did what they did when the Sixers kind of fucked up. I think Game 3 MSG, where they essentially, as the inbound play that I believe DiVincenzo or Hart, somebody had it. DiVincenzo made the shot, and they somehow were able to win that game. So it was almost kind of like a 180 in a way where the favorites for both teams, they kind of had their own moment in a way. But for the Knicks, I mean, this was a clinching game. They're at essentially their own place, and you just hope specifically that this doesn't demoralize them coming into Game 6 tonight in Philly, a hostile crowd where you'll expect, obviously, the Knicks fans to be there. Obviously, them showing up and going crazy after their run the other day before the loss they had a couple days ago. So, yeah, I did get the chance to watch the Knicks at least until the end, but I didn't see, obviously, the way that things transpired there. I did see the overtime, but, yeah, just it's a backbreaker. And obviously, if they somehow fuck up this series, they'll looking at this game and pretty much saying what could have, should have. Because I think obviously Thibodeau has a blame into it, but I think it's more of the players than anything.
Well, look, I get that, but Tom Thibodeau was responsible for the players on some level. He is the head coach. By the way, I mean, Brunson, I love Brunson, but that overtime, he was just terrible. He was terrible in overtime. Brunson's a point guard. He was not like – he was trying to do so much of it himself. And by the way, I don't know – I mean, look, the most important thing to me is how those last 26 seconds went. That, to me, was the real issue. Like, the point is we never should have been in overtime in the first place. I mean, if Josh Hart can just make a free throw, I mean – and Jalen Brunson knowing he's not a good free throw shooter, and in Mitchell Robinson knowing, like, Mitchell Robinson should not be guarding the perimeter in the first place. There's no reason he should even be contesting that shot. But, like, also that play where Brunson decides last second to pass to Hartenstein when Hartenstein cut to the basket and Brunson threw it out of bounds. Why are you passing it to Isaiah Hartenstein around the 3-point line? He's not a shooter. Like, he's going to cut to the basket. It just totally defied common sense what Brunson was doing.
They're gonna kill me for this. He's so overrated. I mean, Brunson. He had one good game. He's been awful this series. Besides that, he's been awful.
Yeah.
I mean, Okay, it's not Thibodeau's fault. You know what happened 2 years ago? Was it 3 years ago? Whatever it was. Julius Randle was having a similar season that Brunson had, and then he shit himself in the playoffs. Thibodeau, he's got a problem late in these season. He's not a good coach in postseason. He's not. And I mean, Brunson has been bad this series. A couple of guys all over have been bad, but he's been bad, and he thought that he could do it all himself. And then, like you said, then he tries to pass it to Hartenstein. I mean, it just made no sense.
Yeah, it was just really bad decision making from Brunson all around the whole game. And people were talking about how he had like a lot of people were talking about how the series is over because, I mean, first of all, Knicks fans totally touched the money. Crazy how much that happened, but we'll get into that. People were talking about how the series is over because Brunson had a bad game. Brunson had a terrible game, and the Knicks were able to win. The problem is that he's having multiple terrible games, and he's not really like snapping out of it at all in this series. Like the whole series, he's been bad. In reality, it was the other way around. It was Deuce McBride, Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart. They just had really good games, and that's really what bailed us out. And Brunson having a bad game has been the norm this whole series, basically. I mean, that is true about Thibodeau. In terms of he has historically struggled a lot in the postseason. That is undoubtedly true. I think Tom Thibodeau is a very good coach. He's just kind of like, I don't know. He plays his starters too much a lot. And, you can't, he's just, look, you can say that about almost every head coach. There's lots of criticisms. In my view, coaching is very much an occupation of experience. The more experience you have, the more likely you're going to know what to do in certain situations. But to me, Jalen Brunson is like the quarterback of this team. And when the Knicks lose, a lot of it falls on Jalen Brunson. And when he's playing bad, it's really hard to expect the Knicks to win. And people are talking about a miracle from Tyrese Maxey. Okay, sure. First of all, I wouldn't call it a miracle when he hits 2 threes in a row. Like, that's not crazily characteristic. Like, if Mitchell Robinson hit 2 3-pointers in a row, I would say, okay, that's a miracle. Tyrese Maxey hitting 2 threes in a row, not really a miracle. I mean, he drew a foul on one of them. I mean, it's not crazy out of the realm of possibility.
Especially because he's really fast, too. He's really fast, too. So, like, it's also not shocking, too. It's not like you have a guy specific about not only just shoot threes, but he's just, like, he moves really well as well.
Right, and he's, like, the second best player on the Sixers. And, by the way, this series has been the best player on the Sixers because Embiid is not healthy. Probably has been the best player on the court. And he had, 48 points?
Yeah. Who?
Maxey?
Yeah, he had 46.
46 points. So Maxey had 46 points.
Yeah.
So he already had 40. He already had almost 40 points when this happened. It's not exactly, to me, it's not a miracle that would happen. It's not easy, but it's not at all beyond the realm of possibility. The thing is, though, people said the same thing. The flip side, though, is Embiid also didn't. I mean, Embiid had a triple-double, but his shooting was terrible. He was clearly limping around. He was not healthy. It's not like they were playing a Sixers team at full strength. And, this Sixers team is just absolutely a shell of what they were when Embiid was healthy. And the Knicks look like they're in a lot of trouble. And they're the home team. Like, they might blow a 3-1 lead. And they're not favored this game. They're underdogs by 3.5 points. So if you're a Knicks fan and you're not worried about this, I think you're crazy. You would have to be crazy to not be worried about the series. I'm not saying I think they're going to lose, but you should be worried because that's the only logical conclusion any reasonable fan can draw from what we saw transpire. Because it is true that the Sixers, I think the Sixers and Knicks are similar in some sense, which is that they both tend to blow it in big spots historically, which is what they've done in big games. So I guess maybe Sixer fans might be thinking the same thing. And when people talk about how, it was basically the same thing that happened. It's like that happened in game 2. It's like, okay, yes, that's true, but that doesn't make me feel any better about it. If anything, that makes me feel worse because if in game 2 we stole a series, that means we basically made the whole thing null and void by blowing a game of our own. Well, like I don't get that. It would be like if it would be like if you lost a bad beat and then right after winning like a bet that you didn't right after winning a bad beat, like you don't feel better about that bad beat just because you happen to win a lot of money before that. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like the answer to stealing a game that you shouldn't have won is to just keep winning. That's it. Like I don't totally get that. And by the way, after which I do want to talk a little bit about Knicks fans invade after game 3. Or was it game 4? Which one was
Game
it?
4.
Game 4. Sorry, game 4 in taking over the stadium. Just embarrassing for Sixer fans. And by the way, you talked about last week how the Sixers stadium was going to have a lot of Knicks fans.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's embarrassing for a few reasons. One, I don't think that people realize though how like people in the rest of America realize how close New York and Philadelphia are. They're really, really close to each other. If you took the train, a train straight through would take you less than an hour, probably about 45 minutes. But it's embarrassing for Sixers fans, I guess, but it's embarrassing for the Knicks because it's the reason that they took it over is that it's actually legitimately cheaper to buy 2 train tickets to New York and to Philadelphia, buy a seat at the game than it is to go to a game in New York.
Right.
That is also horrible. That is disgraceful. But
Wow.
the prices at the Garden are such a joke that we could get into that forever. But it was insane. I mean, if you watch the game, when Brunson was coming to the line and stuff, like the arena was chanting MVP, and it was like if you closed your eyes, you would have thought the Knicks were the home team, not the Sixers. There was much more cheers for the Knicks than the Sixers, but yeah, I mean, basically they were. There was a lot, it's a quick commute, and it's cheaper to do all of that than to go to Philadelphia. And yeah, I mean, it was. I expected there to be a lot of Knicks fans, but I didn't expect it to be like that.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, Knicks fans are look. It's true when you can just take a train from one city to the other. Realistically, it makes sense that there's going to be a lot of those fans. I just didn't think it would be to the degree that it was. And now, like the owners are buying seats, so Knicks fans don't get them.
Yeah. But Michael Rubin bought seats so that Knicks fans would get them. And I mean, because Philadelphia is a lot like Philadelphia is a great sports city. It's like Boston almost. Like I've been there like during Phillies playoff games and stuff where like everyone and their mother walking down the street has Phillies gear on and stuff like that. But I think that the Sixers are probably the 3rd or 4th team in Philadelphia as well.
Well, probably the 3rd, I would say, behind the Eagles and the Phillies.
Yeah. So, I don't think that like when the Giants played the Eagles in the playoffs, like Giants fans didn't take over the link.
Right.
Or like Yankee fans didn't take over when they played them in the World Series. Although I will say there's normally a lot of Met fans when the Mets play the Phillies.
Yeah, that's probably true. And occasionally you do see the occasional Philly fan at Citi Field.
Well, they're division rivals too, so like that kind of means a little bit more for those two.
Right, and the Sixers are the Knicks and Sixers kind of hate each other. I'm certain I never really hated the Sixers that much. I never like basketball. I'm not really big on basketball rivalries that much. I think rivalries in basketball are more about individual players than they are about teams often. Not always, but often. I hate the Celtics a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I can't hate the Sixers because I hate the Celtics so much that I would have to root for the Sixers when they played the Celtics. I
mean, you can hate both.
But I'm saying like they played the Celtics so much that you get used to rooting for them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't want to get used to that. No, I totally get that. And also, like, now I hate the Sixers largely because of Embiid. Like, a lot of Knicks fans hated the Hawks or hated Trae Young because he beat us. It's like, look, I am not going to hate a player for beating a team, especially when we were favored that series. It's like, I feel like, okay, we should win that series. Embiid's case, I think Embiid is a dirty player.
Oh, we didn't talk about that, by the way. We didn't get that. We didn't talk about that game, by the way. We were off. If that was a regular season game, and if Joel Embiid was not Joel Embiid, he would have 1,000% been thrown out for what he did to Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
That was a flagrant too. And he also committed a flagrant.
Or if he was Draymond Green. If his name was Draymond Green, he would have been a
And he also committed a flagrant in at the end of game 5, by the way. He whacked Brunson in the face. And they didn't call the one where he jumped on Josh Hart's leg either.
Yeah, he's clearly a dirty player. I don't know if you know what we're talking about.
Ben will know this. He stepped on Jaylen Brown's head during one of the series.
Yeah.
It's awful with him. Like he feels like, he's like the bad guy and stuff like that. Like, legitimately, like he tries to force fouls. I mean, heck, like there'll be like a little post play and he'll just chuck it up. It's like a Harden type of thing where it's like, how in the hell is that a foul? But then for him, he gets all the treatment because he's a star player.
Yeah, it's complete bullshit. I remember Bismack Biyombo?
Yeah.
On the Raptors. I think he might have been playing the Cavs, or I think it was the Cavs.
He was a journeyman.
Conference Finals. He like hit a guy in the nuts, and he got suspended like right away. And by the way, Draymond Green that year should have been suspended earlier because he didn't really develop a reputation for being a dirty player until the 2016 playoffs. And he should have been suspended after kicking Steven Adams in the nuts. And I'm sorry, he very clearly did it on purpose. It was not an accident. You just don't you don't just randomly kick your leg and then just hit, which by the way, Embiid did the same thing. Embiid did the same thing. So he's been doing this like numerous times and hasn't been suspended. It's like, to me, it's like I am no fan of. Look, I don't think it should matter if you're if you're the 7th guy off the bench, or if you're the best player on the court. The rules should apply to everybody the same. It shouldn't matter that Embiid is a star. He absolutely should have been ejected. I mean, the Knicks, I don't think are going to like do much about this, but he clearly should have been ejected. I think it's a disgrace that he wasn't ejected. He's very clearly a dirty player. I guess I see a little bit. I kind of see why my net fan friends hate him so much now.
I mean, yeah, it was such a dirty play.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, but it wasn't one dirty play. It was numerous dirty plays, and Mitchell Robinson had to miss the next game.
Yeah, you know what team Joel Embiid would be great for is the Heat. Because that's all they do. The Miami Heat are just a bunch of – I want to say they're a bunch of thugs, but, like, man, just playing them this series, they – like, them and Philly are so similar in the way it's like if things just don't go their way, they try to hurt people. That's obvious.
Yeah, that was Mark.
Well, but also, though –
that was making me think of the time with Markieff Morris and Jokic.
Or what about
a cheap shot at Jokic, and then Jokic just pummeled him?
Well, also though, what about LeBron would have 5 rings if Kelly Olynyk didn't rip Kevin Love's shoulder out of its socket?
Yeah,
I mean that's another one where like a dirty move fucks up the whole playoffs.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, because like LeBron haters always say, well, if not for this or that, LeBron would only have this many rings, but they never go the other way around.
Well, yeah, because in 2015, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were hurt.
Yeah, they were both hurt. Well, Kyrie Irving got hurt during the finals. Kevin Love got hurt
during game 1, though. But yeah,
right. But Kevin Love got hurt. I think that was
in the first round. But yeah,
that was the first round. So I don't know. The point I'm making is I'm very worried about this. I'm very, very worried about this series. Knicks fans should not be chanting, "We want Boston."
Right.
That's just embarrassing. No, you get through this series first.
Right.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Well, they would have to go 2 series to play Boston too.
Right. We didn't even win the first round. Didn't even win the first round. Like it's. I mean, luckily, I think the Knicks. The Knicks, I think, could at least beat anybody. I mean, the team I'd be most concerned about is Boston. I think we could beat anybody. In my view, we could, and even in this series, the odds, just objectively speaking, are in our favor. But that doesn't mean that we're going to end up winning.
I think the Knicks. I think with the Knicks, they're really, a hard, gritty type team. And I think I hate all the offseason talk with the Knicks. Are like, they're looking at this guy. Heck, they're still in the playoffs. I mean, worry about that stuff essentially when the season's over. And we'll talk obviously about some reported speculation, rumors with the Knicks in terms of the so-called player that we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's just like the NBA season's not over yet. And the next season's not over yet, despite in terms of how they played and they blew that game. So I don't know how you guys are feeling about tonight, but obviously people say that every game specifically is a must win, which technically it is in the playoffs. But for the Knicks specifically, this is must win than anything, especially with the way that the other game happened.
Right, and momentum could be a very powerful thing. I mean, the truth is, it's obviously more of a must win game for the Sixers than it is for the Knicks, and.
Right.
I like the Sixers and like the Philly and New York are so close. I don't think home court advantage matters as much in this series as it does in others.
Give me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's like it also very much depends on how healthy Embiid is, and I guess one good thing about the Knicks is that Embiid is just his knee I feel like his condition can only get worse as long as he keeps playing on it. It can't really get better. And there's not really much he can do when he's hobbling around on one leg. I guess that's why he wanted to injure Mitchell Robinson. He wants everybody to be injured just like he is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how long it also, I don't know if Philly wins this series and they keep going, I don't know how much longer you can put Joel Embiid on the court before it becomes medical malpractice. I mean, like, he's having migraines now. He's having he's having everything. So I'm gonna give you real quick. I'm gonna give you right now. Give me an over under.
Okay.
So if the Knicks lose tomorrow night, I'll give both you guys an over under. If the Knicks lose tonight. And we go game 7 Saturday night at the Garden. $600 for the cheapest ticket, over under.
The cheapest in the whole stadium?
What's that, Ben?
Including like the nosebleed seats?
Yeah.
Under.
Ben?
I'll go over. It's a game 7.
Well, Nick, the game hasn't even been confirmed yet, Nick.
Okay.
And right now, the cheapest ticket is $635.
Wow, that's crazy. And that's like a nosebleed.
If the Knicks lose tonight, then that'll go way up because then it's a confirmed game.
Wow, that's crazy. Wait, what happened? Wait, so you can buy tickets for game 7. Wait, how does it work if you buy tickets for a game that isn't confirmed yet? They just refund you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or pretty much, yeah. No, you get it. No, you don't. It's actually not a bad idea. So I actually bought when the Yankees played the Red Sox in the wild card baseball game. I bought, what was that, like 2 years ago? I bought a ticket to the game before the season ended because it was possible the Yankees would be at home. And then it was in Boston, but I got my money back, and then I got like an extra $100 credit. So it was actually pretty good. Oh, you got an extra like $100.
Honestly, to me, even if I was the biggest Knicks fan in the world, it's not worth spending $600 for a nosebleed seat game.
No,
it's
just go to
even if it was like the finals too. Like,
you can watch it on TV.
You could literally, like, if you want to be part of the atmosphere and stuff, just go to a bar next to the Garden and then get the atmosphere like before and after the game. Like,
yeah, because most Knicks fans the vast majority of Knicks fans are not wealthy enough to afford those tickets. And if you're very wealthy and can afford that, you're probably making enough smart decisions in your life that you're not going to be rooting for the Knicks. So it's
for the Celtics. They actually I haven't done this before, but they actually have a group of Celtics like fans that do a watch party at Big Night Live, which is right next door to TD Garden, and you can get in for $15 to do a watch party. It's just like do that. Don't like go crazy and spend like $500. I mean, unless you really, really need it, but not many people can. So, I mean, something like that.
I mean, to me, I think, like, in my view, going to games, I think, is often very overrated. Depending on, I mean, like, to me, I'm not saying I would never go to a game if the Jets are in the Super Bowl and I can, I would probably go to that. As long as, I'm not sitting in freezing weather or something like that.
Football is the most overrated one to go to.
It is by far. Football is the most overrated. People like
so much better on television.
I remember I went to like a Giants-Titans game.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I think, right before COVID. The Giants and Titans both stunk that year. Both those teams were bad. And I was freezing my ass off. I wanted to go. I was so cold. I had to go inside to a gift shop just to keep from getting hypothermia. And there were a whole bunch of other games on at the same time. Why would I even be there? What is the point? I don't get the whole season ticket thing. It's not that I would never go to a game, but if I am going to go to a game, I'd rather it be a night game. And it's the atmosphere of regular season games, it's not worth it. And by the way, I would love to be in the atmosphere of a Knicks playoff game, but it's not worth $600.
No.
I'd like $600 more than atmospheres. It's to me, it's just totally not worth it. We lost Ben.
It's not. It's insanity.
Just totally not worth it at all to me. I don't know if you saw Kelly Oubre is now is in some type of feud with Bobby Bacala. He said that celebrities are going to be at the game and they don't. Or he said, wait, what did he say? He said, hold on. He said, hold on a second. I have the quote right here. Okay. He said the seats would be filled by celebrities that would be there and not care about the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually who said that?
I don't think that's entirely wrong, but I think
that is true. That's why the Garden that's why a lot of these places are a sanitized environment. A lot of these stadiums. And that's not, by the way, the Garden is over the top because I used to be able to go to net games when they had KD and Kyrie and Harden for $20 a ticket. And at the same time, when the Knicks were terrible, they would be $100. So the Garden is over the top, but tickets to everything are expensive now.
Yeah. Tickets for everything are obviously. I mean, it doesn't help with all this inflation and things like that. And I mean, look, to me, like we were saying, it's just going to games to me is just overrated. I think my entire enjoyment of sports, or at least most of it, is the fact that I'm watching it on TV.
Right, but football is the worst one because football has an attendance problem. They can't sell out buildings during the regular season. I mean, they don't care because football has made the game so much better on television than it is in person. And also, you can't you go to a football game, there's no yellow line, stuff like that. It's harder to even know what's going on than if you watch it on TV. Honestly,
yeah, depending on where you're sitting. I mean, some people get box seats and things like that. But the one thing about basketball that makes it a little better is that you don't have to worry about the weather. And in baseball, if the weather is bad, if there's rain or something like that, the game gets postponed most likely. But in football, they play through all different elements and you're just sitting there. And you have to deal with it. Hey, Ben, I see you're back.
Right.
The gremlins get to you?
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, something happened there. But yeah, I'm back.
And so we're just talking about how going to games is overrated.
Yeah, I mean, for me specifically, if it's not my team, I think specifically I can definitely attest to it. I don't go a lot. I know there's some people specifically that go to games all the time. I just, one, don't have the time for it, and two, I'm fine watching it on TV most of the time than not. Maybe if it's a series that I want to see or it's a player that I want to see. I mean, going to Fenway, obviously, for the Red Sox, I mean, that's obviously my team I've been watching ever since I've been little. I'll go to maybe 4 to 5 games a year if it's overly a team that I want to see or a player. And then maybe, a Celtics or a Bruins game, I tune in here and there for it, but it's like outside of that, like you're already paying a lot if you're going to take the train or you're going to be driving to a place. You're going to be spending money on that. Then you're going to be spending on food, spending money on tickets. It just adds up, and you can essentially just, sit on your couch and watch a specific game and do the exact same thing with food and everything like that. You don't have to spend a dime. So I can definitely attest to it. But
by the way, the food they totally price gouge you at stadiums. They know you're locked in and you can't leave, and they just charge just crazy amounts of money. It's like you would at the Garden, you would get like $16 for like a sandwich.
It's insane.
It is crazy how expensive the food is at these places, and most of the time the food, you don't even have many options. Like at the Garden, for instance, it's all a revolving door essentially of the same exact stuff, the same exact options, just around the entire arena, and it's like and the prices are just insane. And by the way, like if you go to a bar, for instance, they would give you ice water for free. You have to buy bottled water at games. Like it is such a bad deal. And the thing is, though, it's like when you're at a game, you're just at a game. But if you're watching it on TV, like it is specifically catered for your viewing experience. Well, at a game, it's different. Like you're just sitting wherever you're sitting and the game is happening. Whereas on TV, I mean, it's basically designed for the viewer. Like you could have a really bad angle at a game and not be able to tell what's going on. I mean, it's one thing. Like I remember I went to a Mets World Series game. I went to Game 4 in 2015 that they lost. For something like that, I think it's different because I was just so nervous and hyped up about the game that I wouldn't even I wasn't there for the viewing experience. I was there for to see a Mets win and see the atmosphere. Something like that is different, but we don't. Well, maybe you do, but me and Liam don't experience that very much. Certainly, I don't.
I mean, crazy enough, I've never, for any of my teams, seen a playoff game. And I think for myself specifically, that's one thing on my bucket list to do. I will say specifically a sporting event that's kind of underrated, at least to me, and that I know a lot of people hate going to, is golf tournaments. There's a golf tournament right in my state called the Travelers Championship. I go every single year. It's the final round, so go with my brother for like $60, $70, and I can just walk around the course. And it's like, yeah, the food obviously is a little on the pricier side, but if you're going to go to something with at least some stakes, then at least, you're going for a better experience. If you're going to something specifically for a Yankees and Reds game for $8, it's like, all right, cool, unless you really want to go to see a game that, I mean, theoretically, I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything, but it's like, you can just watch out your home and be fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a little bit true. Like many of the celebrities with courtside seats don't care, but I mean, I don't know. Spike Lee cares.
And stop. I'm tired of Ewing and Starks, honestly. Both Ewing, Starks, and Carmelo Anthony with their combined 0 rings. Two of them, Ewing couldn't make a finger roll shot where they would have won a championship that year. And John Starks had the worst game anyone's ever had in the history of basketball in Game 7. Stop showing them, honestly. I'm getting show the same 3 people every time.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a total joke. I mean, look, I'm nervous about the series. I think I guess all Knicks fans are. But
I'll give you the good even if the Knicks lose this series, the good news is that this is the worst Knicks team for the next 5 years. This will be the worst Knicks team because they have a lot of draft picks they're sitting on that they're going to trade for someone. Julius Randle's going to come back. Jalen Brunson is still relatively young. This is the worst Knicks team you'll see in 5 years.
I think that's probably true. Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw the KD and Devin Booker rumors. It looks like the Suns are going to blow this whole thing up.
Don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, they have too much money invested.
I could see some guys going. I don't think Booker would leave. I think it would be more than anything Kevin Durant possibly because he's been kind of around. Apparently he wasn't too thrilled about the role that he was in, but I think it's going to essentially for both of them. I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to try it out, ride it out for one more year. Big threes at this point in time, guys. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but they haven't been working maybe as some people have thought in the past years. I mean, it really comes down to cohesion. And, you can have all the stars in the world, but essentially if you can't cohesion and you can't execute with them, it's obviously it's a star-driven league, but it doesn't matter, with the guys that you have unless it works out. Look at the Brooklyn Big Three, for instance, right, with Harden. I mean, availability too. I mean, there's some of those star players that are not even playing half the time. And you look at
No, go ahead.
No, yeah. I was also going to say with the Clippers, for instance, too. I mean, they have Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, yeah, you can say it on paper, that's great. But then you look at a guy like Kawhi Leonard who's barely playing right now. So it's like, is it really that good?
Well, the thing with the big threes and so-called super teams is that historically there's been a lot of them, and historically it's happened a lot. It's not exactly like new that big threes haven't been as good. I mean, look, it's a competitive league, and the big three by itself is not going to do anything, especially when you can be a superstar and still disappear during when the playoffs come around, like Kevin Durant often does.
No, that's wrong. Kevin Durant disappears in the playoffs? That's so wrong.
He hasn't disappeared in the playoffs in recent years. You don't think he has?
No.
You don't think he quit with the Nets?
No, the game that he had the foot on the line, he had 50
No,
something.
not that game. I'm not talking about that game.
No, I think he was terrific. Remember, the other two guys got hurt too. He was during those Warriors playoff runs. He was by far the best player on those Warriors.
He was.
Playoffs.
I'm saying in the past three.
No.
I'm saying in the past.
Bradley Beal was the problem with the Suns this year. They had two problems. One, Beal was bad, and two, besides the three guys, they had absolutely nobody else.
They paid Beal a buttload contract, and he barely put up the numbers essentially for it. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Well, I think the problem was everybody, but Durant did not have a good series. I mean, no, I think Kevin Durant has hurt his legacy in the past 2 years. I'm not saying put on the line. I'm not talking about 2021. I'm talking about the past since 2022 and on. 2021, he was phenomenal, and the Nets. By the way, in my view, I'm not against big threes. If the Knicks can get a big three, I'm all for it. You're more likely to win with a big three than without a big three. Right. And historically speaking, many times it hasn't worked out. You have the Lakers in 2004. You have the Bulls the Rockets in 1998, I think it was, with Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen. It's not particularly uncommon for super teams to just not work out. By the way, the Harden, Kyrie, the Brooklyn Big Three, they could have won multiple championships. It's not like they weren't good; they were absolutely good enough. It was just the whole sideshow that happened. And,
they would have won the championship that year if Harden and Irving didn't get hurt. Also,
you're absolutely right.
But also, I think Kevin Durant left at least 2 rings on the table, maybe even more if he had not gone to Brooklyn at all. If he had stayed in Golden State, I think he could have won at least 2-3 more rings. And one of the reasons he went is because he thought that it affected his legacy to just win with Steph and them. He's never even come close without either of them.
Yeah,
without Steph
this hurt his legacy even more. It proved.
Whatever. I mean, the Warriors are really the only team and the Warriors wouldn't consider really a big three because they really grew Klay Thompson and Curry and Draymond Green and those guys also won before and after Durant. But when they brought on Durant, that was really the only super team that really truly worked out like it was supposed to.
Well, Miami Heat.
Yeah.
The Celtics. A lot of super teams.
No.
Super teams.
No. Celtics only won one championship with that team.
All right, fine. I guess you could say it didn't really work.
Celtics, that 2008 Celtics team is a lot like the 86 Mets.
How?
Like the 86 Mets that team could have won like 4 championships and they only won 1.
Right. No,
and same with the Celtics.
Yeah, I thought if between KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, I thought they'd have more than one. But
I mean, actually, the biggest super team fail was the Billy King super team with Paul Pierce, with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett.
Yeah,
that was probably the biggest super team fail. That there was just a bunch of old men.
Right, because they didn't. At least the Nets were competitive. The Kevin Durant.
I also will say too, and obviously, big three. Obviously, it's on the players. But I feel like with a lot of these big three too, do you guys realize a lot of the coaches aren't great? I don't know if it's just me, but like there's specifically some big three teams that you look at like, wow, that's awesome. But it's like, oh yeah, that's the reason why we have an awful coach.
Yeah, that's part of it. I think a lot of times with big three teams, inmates are running the asylum. A lot of times with big three teams, they're picking the head coach, and the head coach is not really coaching; they're simply babysitting.
Yeah. Like for instance, you talked about the Heat team. The Heat had one of the best coaches in the NBA on that big three team, and I think that look at even though he was an assistant, like Kenny Atkinson left the Nets, became assistant, he won a championship.
Right.
Like I think the Nets would have been better off. Well, I think that's I guess it's you'll never know because whatever, but they would have been better off keeping Kenny Atkinson. Yeah,
and by the way, speaking of bad head coaches, I want to talk a little bit about Darvin Ham. He's really being scapegoated here. I don't even know if I'd say he's being scapegoated. He's not a good head coach, but I mean, like, I wouldn't say he's being scapegoated. I would say he's being thrown under the bus by Laker fans. This was just, the Lakers, they didn't really have a very deep roster. But Darvin Ham, I think objectively speaking, has just been a bad head coach.
Yeah, but this is a tough series if you're a Laker fan, really tough, because it was a 5-game series, but if you took away the last 2-3 minutes of every single game, the Lakers would have swept the Nuggets. Yeah. It was a 5-game series. I think you guys would agree. It was a 5-game series that legitimately could have gone anywhere. Either team legitimately could have won that series.
Yeah.
The Lakers had the lead. The Lakers had the lead for the vast majority of the series in terms of minutes with the lead, like the vast majority. 2 of the Nuggets wins were on buzzer beaters. It was and it was bad. Darvin Ham, I think, is definitely going to get fired. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think he probably will.
I think he's going to get fired. Yeah, LeBron is obviously like the kingmaker of the team. If he didn't want Darvin Ham there, like the Lakers have 2 second-round picks. I would bet everything that they use one of them to take Bronny James because LeBron wants to play with his son. But
apparently. No, I was going to say about the Bronny stuff. Apparently, according to Woj lately, apparently that's not all true now. Apparently, he might decide to go without that. Bronny has to go here and there.
You might go back to college.
I don't know if he go back to college, but I don't think that his overall decision now impacts in terms of where Bronny Jr. goes.
The truth is, if he enters the draft and LeBron requests that he get drafted to the Lakers, it's going to happen.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Like,
they would use a first rounder on him if that were true. If that happened, if he said draft him and I'm leaving, they would use a first rounder on him.
They probably would.
The one thing that I found like so irritating about after the series talk is like there was a lot of talk of like, oh, should LeBron retire and stuff? Yes, they just got beat in 5 games, but LeBron James was great in that series. He had a terrific series. You're coming off him scoring 30-something points a game in the series. It's not like Ben will know because he's more of a hockey fan, but like the Rangers played the Capitals and Alex Ovechkin looked like a guy who needs to retire. Like he did absolutely nothing in the entire series, which was a first for him. Yeah. On the opposite end, LeBron James, who's in a similar age and playing time, he was by far the best player on the Lakers. And he was brought down by the role players on the Lakers. Austin Reeves had a bad series. D'Angelo Russell had a bad series. Anthony Davis had a very Anthony Davis series where he was very good in some games and then was average. But for the people saying like, is he going to retire? LeBron, like ability and playing wise, is nowhere near retire.
No, not even close.
No, definitely not.
He just has tremendous durability. He's not going to retire anytime soon. By the way, but I do think he will by the way, just because he was on the team that lost doesn't mean that look, Peyton Manning, when he won the Super Bowl, his second Super Bowl, he won the Super Bowl, but he had to retire. Like, it was just like he looked like somebody who had to retire from the way that he played that whole season. So just because he lost doesn't mean he's going to retire. I could also see LeBron wanting to go out on a high note, like Jerry Seinfeld. I could see him wanting to, go out winning a championship or going out at least, so everybody remembered, I could see him wanting to go out on top, unlike Michael Jordan, who absolutely did not. No, I don't see him retiring anytime. I mean, he's almost 40, but you know what? It's not that old anymore.
Yeah, 40 is not with 40 was old back when people died at late 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
40 just in life in general is not what it used to be either.
Yeah, no, 40 is not that old. I mean, and
LeBron is very rarely injured too, really injured.
Yeah. He is really. He's a little bit more since he joined the Lakers.
He's kind of like Brady in a way. It's really hard for him to. I mean, his durability is great, kind of like Brady was. I mean, 45. Do you think he can go maybe another 5 years?
Probably.
Yeah.
He probably.
But to be fair though, Tom Brady also did hang on 1 year too long.
He did.
Tom Brady was terrible in his last season.
He should have retired the first time, and then that was it.
But football is different than is different than basketball physically. But
it depends on what position you play.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I think he could. The way he plays now, he could easily go 5 more years.
Yeah. The thing is though, the problem with sports fans is that we have short-term memories. Sports fans have very short-term memory, and it's like people remember how many rings you win or if you won the series that year, but always forget actual context. Like, for instance, Steph Curry won a championship in 2015. But he was horrible that series. He didn't even win MVP. Iguodala won MVP. And by the way, he only won MVP by a process of elimination, essentially, because nobody else could have won. The real MVP in that series was LeBron. He was the real finals MVP, but they can't give it to a guy on the losing team. But realistically, he was the real MVP.
Yeah.
Sports fans always forget that. They're going to say that, LeBron lost to the Nuggets in 5 games without remembering any of the context that he carried the whole team.
Well, that's also why he's I hate the people who are saying about LeBron, he needed all this help to win. Yes, literally every player needs all that help to win. Right. Look at what happened. And they're also going to say, he lost to the Nuggets. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You can't say, he lost. Well, he had no help. And then you can't say, he won because he only had help. It's right. You can't say both.
Well, the truth is, I get that one player in basketball makes a big difference, but everybody needs help to win. Maybe at least in the past 40 years or so. I mean, maybe not as much in the 60s when there was not nearly as much talent, but in the modern era when most sports fan in the era that most sports fan, I would say 1980 and onward, everybody needs help. People make it sound like Michael Jordan won by himself. It's the reason Michael Jordan didn't leave the Bulls is because he didn't have to. LeBron left Cleveland because he had to leave Cleveland. So it's not really making a point if for a while Michael Jordan couldn't beat the Pistons.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan needed help too. Everybody needed help. It's just not possible. It's not realistic to expect anybody to win without quote unquote help. Oh, you couldn't do it all by yourself. Why don't you play on the court by yourself?
Pippen
1-on-5. If you're really the GOAT, you'll win.
Right. He had Scottie Pippen, obviously.
Yeah, and nobody could seriously argue that you can win without quote unquote help. So I don't know. Like I don't know. I think the lowest discourse in sports is the Michael Jordan LeBron debate. It is like the lowest discourse of like, oh yeah, well what about the rings? Like LeBron stands, I think, are a little weird sometimes. However, I think that overall, LeBron fans, I think, are smarter basketball fans than Michael Jordan fans are overall, in my view. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I just from my experience.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think greatness really. I think people just kind of have to understand. And with you, when you look at debate specifically, you sometimes kind of have to realize specifically, the greatness factor with kind of both. I mean, listen, I'm a Celtics fan, right? LeBron James was somebody that I obviously looked at specifically that I didn't like at first, because he beat the Celtics a lot when he was a Cavalier. But obviously, then I came to realize specifically in terms of all the championships and stuff like that, it's just like. I think I'm more just a jealous factor than just a hatred factor. I think more for Michael Jordan. I still think that he's an all-time great, but I also can't look at LeBron James and be like, he's not an all-time great. He's going to be probably going down as another great. So I mean, you obviously have the fans that respect both, and that's fine. I respect both at the end of the day, and just kind of go with it.
Yeah, no, I love sports debates. I just can't stand sports fan logic a lot of the time, and you know what? In my view, just in general in life, conventional wisdom is not always accurate. I mean, people used to believe the earth was flat. People used to think you were crazy if you thought Andy Reid was comparable to Bill Belichick. And now it's very obviously like Andy Reid's a better head coach than Bill Belichick. It's just sort of like, look, what we consider to sound some like crazy now might just be conventional wisdom 5 years from now. And I don't like. I think that a lot of sports fans tend to have blinders on when it comes to legacy and things like that of players individually. I do want to talk. Speaking of short-term memory, as I was saying, I do want to talk a little bit about the NFL draft. I know this feels like ancient history because it was a week ago. I'm a Jet fan, but there's mainly two things I want to talk about. One, the Jets drafting Olu Fashanu, got his name right, and the offensive lineman out of Penn State. A lot of fans hate this pick. The interesting thing about this, to me, is that did you not remember last season? What was the biggest criticism? The two biggest criticisms of Joe Douglas. I guess the biggest was the fact that he didn't have a backup quarterback other than Zach Wilson. But the second biggest criticism of Joe Douglas was that they didn't build up the offensive line. Every Jet fan was saying that. And now so many Jet fans, it seems like the majority, though I'm not 100% sure, it seems like the majority are now railing on him for drafting an offensive lineman, a star offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get this. It's like, first of all, people always talk about how baseball is complex. In reality, baseball is not a complex sport. You could have multilingual teams where players don't speak the same language and win a World Series. Basketball is not complex either. You need some stars and, whatever. Football actually is complex. Football is like a bridge almost. Like you have to have a foundation and and there's so many pieces in a team in football that are not things that you watch the game for, but are very important and for the foundation of the team. And that's the offensive line. Brock Bowers would have been a much more exciting pick. But the more exciting pick is not necessarily the smarter or better pick for the team. Aaron Rodgers is a 40-year-old quarterback who just injured himself, who coming off a really bad injury and will probably get injured at some point in this upcoming season. It is not a crazy thing to think that he'll miss a game because of an injury. So why would drafting an offensive lineman be a bad idea? It's just, I think that Jet fans are confusing like exciting pick with better pick. You know who was an exciting pick was Geno Smith. we were screaming when the Jets drafted Geno Smith. But would any sane person say that it was a good pick? No, it wasn't. It was not a good pick, but we were excited about it. And when you have an old quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and your backup is Tyrod Taylor, nothing against Tyrod Taylor, but when you go from Aaron Rodgers to Tyrod Taylor with an injury, your quarterback being protected is pretty important, especially when you're in arguably the toughest division in football. And to me, Jet fans just have to realize that, because so many Jet fans are just forgetting about last season.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if that would have been an exciting pick to get Brock Bowers, because how exciting would it be if he doesn't have any time to get open because the quarterback doesn't have the ball? I mean, so while we say that everybody would agree that the quarterback is the most important position in all of sports, but even having a good quarterback like Aaron Rodgers doesn't mean anything if you have an offensive line that's not good. The offensive line is pretty much as important as having a good quarterback, because a good quarterback can do nothing without a good offensive line. So yeah, I would never demean a team, whatever, for drafting an offensive lineman, because you never know with an offensive lineman if they're going to be good or not. You can never even have too many of them, and there'll never be a team that probably won't have a need at offensive line, no matter how good there are. I mean, the Chiefs probably have needs at offensive line. So
and the funny thing is, people always if you listen to sports talk radio during the season, in any local market, the vast majority of those shows will talk about how the local team doesn't have a good offensive line. That's usually what would happen. How many teams in the NFL in a given year have good offensive lines? I could count them on one hand. That usually doesn't happen. And everybody seems to have bad offensive lines now. And for the Jets situation in particular, they need offensive line. For them, it's more crucial than with pretty much any other team.
Yeah. I really think with the Jets, it was the smart move. I think really that, Tyron Smith, they also got the guy from the Ravens, and they also have Vera Tucker coming back. Becton went to the Eagles, which I was a little bit surprised about, but obviously he has his injury problems. But yeah, I mean, I think with the Jets specifically, I mean, you look at it, and not only, like you mentioned, Nick, in terms of them getting an offensive line, the fact of Rodgers' age, which almost pretty much will tell you that they need to get him more than ever. And they did that. So, with Jet fans specifically, it's like, all right, do you want the shiny toy, or you want to keep your quarterback upright?
Right. No, that's a great way to put it. The shiny toy, which is essentially what it would be, because the most important thing right now for the Jets, I would say, would be the offensive line. I also want to talk a little bit about the Falcons drafting Michael Penix, and so many people trying to rag on the Falcons for drafting Penix. And I would say I think they're also wrong about this. They're like, well, you have Kirk Cousins. It's like Kirk Cousins is coming off an ACL injury, is 36 years old. 36 years old is, for a professional athlete, is pretty old. Not so old that you can't play another 5 years. He probably could, but I mean, he's very injury prone.
Yeah, but
we don't know how much longer Kirk Cousins is going to last.
Yeah, but that excuse is true. That's what one of the things the Falcons said. Oh, if he didn't just come to us last year, if he had been with us for 12 years and he was the same person, he was injury prone as he is, and 36, then people would not criticize him for taking a quarterback. That's not a good excuse, because if that was true, why did you just give him over $100 million?
Well, I think that's
not a good excuse, because they just gave him $100 million.
Well, don't you think that could also be another reason to draft Penix if you just gave him $100 million?
No, because if they thought all of that stuff and they thought that they wanted another quarterback, two things. One, no, because they shouldn't have given him $100 million if that was the case. Two, they already said that Penix might sit for 4 years or 5 years when he would be in his 30s at the end. So if he was going to sit for 4 or 5 years, why draft someone to not play till the end of the
Penix
term?
is not going to sit for 4 or 5 years.
They said he would, though.
They
That's
said
their
he
plan,
might,
though.
but he realistically, Penix will not sit for 4 or 5 years. So last year, I think a total of 66 quarterbacks started at some point last year. That's more than 2. There's roughly 2 for each team. Quarterbacks were getting injured left and right last year. Kirk Cousins is 36 years old. He might not be with the team for a very long time. This could be a very good long-term investment.
But they just gave him $100 million, though. You're forgetting that part.
I get that. I understand. But he's still 36 years old. And your backup right now is Taylor Heineke. Michael Penix is one of the best quarterbacks coming out of college football. If you're going,
it doesn't matter though, because he's not going to play.
But I guarantee you, he will play at some point this year. He will play.
But if the argument is that he's injury prone, then they shouldn't have given him $100 million.
Maybe it's true they shouldn't have given. First of all, the thing is, by the way, I don't buy into that argument entirely because he can still be worth $100 million and still be injury prone. Like, I don't get that claim. I mean, quarterbacks are worth a lot of money, even if they are injury prone. That's the thing. The point is that, but there's another thing I want to talk about, which is that Penix is that the Falcons are in probably the weakest division in the NFL. If they have a competent quarterback, who could be Penix, they can still be a playoff team and make a run. I would much rather have Penix as my backup than Heineke, and also for the future. Penix could be the future of the franchise. I don't know, Ben. Did you have any thoughts on this?
I thought at the timing was a little odd. I thought that the Falcons were probably going to go like defense or something early on. I'm kind of indifferent about it because yes, you obviously, given in terms of the injury problems with Kirk Cousins in the past, I can see it, but I also can't understand in terms of you paid him like a 3-4 year contract. You're going to go quarterback first. And also, too, with Kirk Cousins not really understanding about it either. That's one thing specifically that you have to kind of make sure that, your team is, in for. And for a guy that you pay all the, money in the world for as your starting quarterback, and then you essentially like, oh, we're getting another quarterback in the draft. It's like something is a little off there as well. So it's like, yes, I can definitely see it. But, if your quarterback is not understanding the move, too, that's definitely concerning.
Well, Kirk Cousins reportedly was angry about the Falcons drafting a quarterback, and to that I would say too bad. You're paid a lot of money.
I don't think he was mad that they got a quarterback. I think he was mad that they didn't improve the team.
No, I think he was mad that they didn't tell him that they were drafting a quarterback. That's what he said. I mean, he's getting $100 million. I don't know. I guess I don't know how often they notify the current quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't like it when they drafted Jordan Love. Brett Favre didn't like it when they drafted
that's true.
When they drafted Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know why that's really much of a thing. So overall, I can't really, as a Jet fan, I don't know how you felt about your Patriots, Ben. I personally wasn't too mad about this draft.
No, I thought for the Patriots, I was pretty content, not gonna lie. They decided to get some offensive talent for Drake May at the end, which I think, with Mac Jones, they really didn't give him kind of the fair rep about that. I don't know how Mac Jones was going to be regardless of the fact. Heck, he could have been the same he was last year or whatever. But yeah, getting Drake May for the first overall, I really like that one, of course. We'll see specifically he's going to start next year. I know that, he's been asking him in terms of who's going to play next year. He's just like, I'm going to take the opportunity, just kind of as given. They also got an offensive line from Penn State, just like your Jets as well, Nick. They got his last name is Wallace. I forgot his first name. A lot of people weren't too high on this pick, but they got an offensive lineman. They also got a cornerback. They also got Joe Milton, who is I don't know. He's not one of the higher pick quarterbacks in the class, but he might have some upside. So that could be kind of fascinating to kind of see a training camp. Yeah, I mean, if you kind of give me a grade in terms of how I felt, I thought, a good solid B plus. I mean, they got potentially their long-term quarterback, potentially. They also got 2 receivers. They got Jagon Polk, who actually played with Michael Penix, funny enough, in his receiving room. They also got Javon Baker, who also played Western Michigan, Western Kentucky, one of those schools, and Alabama. So, yeah, I think overall, you got to give credit where credit's due. And it's actually kind of coincidence where Bill Belichick leaves and essentially they go out and get offensive more talent. And, I think Bill Belichick, too, I don't know if you guys got the chance to see him with Pat McAfee, by the way, that was outstanding. I mean, obviously I'm a bit biased here, but in terms of he went through every single quarterback in terms of their ins and outs. And, obviously he has some negative things about Drake May in terms of his footwork and stuff like that. But, yeah, I thought that was really, really cool kind of for draft night. Yeah, the Patriots, I thought overall, they did a pretty good job. There's nothing really there. I'm just that really angered me that much.
Yeah, well, the one thing about the NFL draft is that it brings up really weird discussions. People start obsessing over arm length and footwork, things you never bring up any other time of the year. It's just really
right. Yeah.
So this one story I want to get to, Dave & Buster's is going to allow gambling on their arcade games. So Dave & Buster's is going to become like a quasi casino.
Yeah, I love this.
I love this too.
I love this too. You should be honestly allowed to gamble on anything.
Yeah.
And I love this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love this because it absolutely incentivizes more people to go. It's like going to a casino.
Yeah, and it adds more excitement. It's obviously it's a moneymaker for Dave & Buster's, no question about it. But it adds a lot of excitement. I mean, Dave & Buster's is a great spot, but normally. But yeah, I mean, it adds a lot of excitement. I mean, I could see it, and then I could see them also teaming up with somebody, whether it's a DraftKings or whatever, where you could just bet on the games in house because you're going to be watching, games on the TV as well while you're in there.
Yeah.
I could see this becoming very lucrative. I mean, gambling has certainly completely taken over the country in the last 5 years.
Yeah, since it's been legalized in a lot of states.
Yeah.
It also gives adults much more of an incentive to want to go to Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
If you can actually wager.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. They'll get an older crowd, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've only been there once. It was for a fight, and I think it was MMA or WWE fight. And I really follow that stuff, but I'm just that's a pretty cool spot. Obviously the food isn't that bad, and it's just the arcade. I don't really get the chance to play the games really, but just kind of an extra incentive. It's just I'm all for this, and maybe I give it a shot.
Yeah, I would definitely, because I would normally not go to Dave & Buster's.
Right.
But if I could gamble, maybe I would do it. I would probably consider it. Yeah, I think it's a great move. It will just objectively, I think it's just a good for business move from Dave & Buster's. So I don't know if you guys saw this. TNT may be losing the NBA.
Really?
I didn't see that. I didn't hear about that.
You didn't hear about this? So TNT might end up losing their NBA rights. Apparently, it might go. Hold on a second. Yeah, like Charles Barkley said, he might become a free agent if TNT loses their.
Well, Charles Barkley is going to become a free agent anyway, though, right? Doesn't he? Isn't his contract over in a year or something?
I'm not sure, but I don't see him leaving if they still have NBA.
Right.
But apparently NBC bid for $2.5 billion. So a couple of Yankee Stadium water bottles.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it would be a shame because inside the NBA is the best post game. Post or pre-game show of any sport in the whole country by far.
Yeah.
It's the best in-studio show. It's actually a rare in-studio show where it actually pulls viewers for the game that might not normally be watching. If the Bucks are playing the Pacers on a Thursday night, they might not some casuals might not watch, but they would actually watch for Inside the NBA.
Yeah.
It's that good. I mean, it's won multiple awards, so yeah, it would be very sad if that went away.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Bucks, by the way, they are down currently 112-93 with 3:54 left in the fourth.
Yeah, it's over.
The Bucks are down?
Yeah, by 20 something. Yeah, the series is over.
They're about to be eliminated.
Yeah. And then the Knicks.
Speaking of the Bucks,
the Knicks are about to. The tip off's going to be at like 9 o'clock. I really hope the Knicks win this so we don't have to play a game 7. But
yeah.
All right. So thanks for. Actually, I do want to. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason are out at CBS.
Yeah, that's this same thing with the thing about football is I feel like it's kind of the opposite. Like with Inside the NBA, we were just talking about. Like I think that football is very like announcer proof. It's going to get viewings no matter what. But but not pregame shows though. To be fair. Like the pregame show that you pick is going to be based on who's on the show and whoever. And I think that as the audience grows younger, I mean, certainly I don't think any of us saw either of we know who they are, but saw either of these guys play. So as the audience grows younger, like you're going to lose relevance as a former player with like the more people that didn't see you play.
Yeah. Also, like people often talk about how they don't like Joe Buck. They're like, I watch the games on mute. No, you fucking don't. You're lying. Nobody does that. Like,
no.
Like people always talk about Joe Buck. Like, I don't know. I don't care if Joe Buck's doing a game or not. I don't care about who's announcing a game, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean, I just see it as just as a game. I mean, yeah. You know, there might be some announcers you favor more than others, but at least for me, I just see it in terms of, you know, if you're a team or not, it's just watching the game.
Also, like Boomer Esiason, I'm sure has plenty of money. He's already in his 60s. Right. It's not like he really needs it.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing I think he's doing the morning show still on FAM.
Yeah, he's doing Boomer and Geo in the morning. It's doing morning radio is tough enough. I'm sure it's not such a big deal that he's going to get an extra day off during football season.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
So I don't know. All right. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week. So you can follow us on social media at MTGP ETB at ETB Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can follow me at Nick DiMart on Twitter at Liam MTGP. Ben at Ben Cruz 144. Is that it? Okay.
Yep.
So, I think that's everything. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week.